I still remember when "I swear" actually meant something. Not because people were perfect, but because a sentence didn't need a screenshot behind it to count as real. And the strange part is this: we trusted each other more, with less proof. Press play, and the past doesn't feel far away. If you're Gen X, you grew up in a world where trust was built through small repetitions. You showed up. You called back. You did what you said you'd do. And over time, people learned your pattern. But somewhere along the way, trust changed shape. It became less emotional and more evidential. Now, it's not enough to say, "I'm on my way." People want a pin on a map. It's not enough to say, "I didn't see it." People want a read receipt. It's not enough to say, "That's not what I meant." People want the exact words, frozen in a screenshot. In this video, I want to do three things. Take you back to how trust used to feel, name what changed without turning everyone into a villain, and share a few ways we can rebuild trust without needing a folder full of proof. Back then, trust was mostly analog. It lived in tone of voice, in eye contact, in pattern. If someone said they'd be there at 7, you believed them until they gave you a reason not to. If you called and got a busy signal, you didn't assume betrayal. You assumed they were on another call, because that's what a busy signal meant. If you left a message on an answering machine, you accepted the silence. They'd hear it when they got home. No panic, no spiral, just time doing what time does. Even money worked on trust more than proof. You paid cash for dinner, no bank statement, no transaction record, no notification for every latte. You borrowed $20 from a friend and paid it back because you said you would, not because a banking app would remind you. Photos didn't exist as constant evidence either. You shot film. A moment was real because you lived it, not because it got posted. If you had a good night with your friends, it didn't need documentation to count. And your younger mistakes, this is the part that feels almost impossible now. Your younger mistakes were allowed to fade. You could be awkward. You could try on a personality for 6 months. You could say something dumb, and it would dissolve into the past like it was supposed to. There weren't receipts for every version of you. No archive. No search bar. Just memory soft around the edges, forgiving in a way that helped people grow up. And because life wasn't constantly documented, people weren't constantly defending themselves. You didn't need to prove you were busy. You didn't need to prove you weren't ignoring someone. You didn't need to prove your intentions. Most of the time, your word was enough. Not because everyone deserved trust, but because trust was the default starting point. Then, the world got recorded. Not just by cameras, by systems. Now, your life leaves a trail by default. Messages have timestamps. Calls have logs. Payments have history. Photos have dates and locations. And conversations, especially written ones, can live forever. At first, it seemed helpful. You could confirm plans. You could show receipts. You could protect yourself from people who lied. And that part is true. But something else happened quietly. Proof stopped being a tool and became a requirement. Now, a simple misunderstanding can turn into a courtroom. Look what you said. Look when you said it. Look what you liked. Look who you followed. Look at the screenshot. And people started living like they were always being cross-examined. We stopped giving each other the benefit of the doubt. Because the internet trained us to believe that the full story is always hiding somewhere if you just dig long enough. And suddenly, trust didn't feel like trust. It felt like surveillance with better branding. Even friendships changed. A delayed reply isn't just a delay anymore. It's interpreted, analyzed, turned into a theory. A sentence isn't just a sentence. It's a potential screenshot. A joke isn't just a joke. It's something that can be pulled out of context years later and used as evidence that you were always the worst version of yourself. And that's exhausting. Because when everything needs to be proven, nothing feels safe. There are three contrasts that define this shift. First, trust used to be assumed until broken. Now, it's withheld until earned. Punchline: we don't build trust anymore. We audit it. Second, conversations used to disappear. Now they can be saved forever. A handwritten letter lived in a drawer. A phone call evaporated into the air. A moment of embarrassment expired naturally. Punchline: we used to move on. Now we store. Third, identity used to be allowed to evolve. Now your past versions can be dug up on demand. A weird phase, a bad opinion, a clumsy sentence. And suddenly, people act like growth is suspicious. Punchline: the internet doesn't just remember, it reenacts. This is why people feel tense online. Not because they're fragile, because the environment punishes trust and rewards proof. So how do we rebuild trust without becoming naive? We start by bringing back a few old instincts. Assume good intent first, when the stakes are small. Not forever. Not for everyone. But for everyday misunderstandings. If someone replies late, try the old explanation before the new one. They're busy. Not, they're disrespecting me. Choose the phone call when tone matters. Text is efficient, but it strips out humanity. A voice can prevent a week of misinterpretation in 30 seconds. Stop collecting proof for relationships you want to keep. If you feel like you need a folder of evidence to stay emotionally safe with someone, that's not trust, that's a slow exit. And here's a quiet Gen X skill we need again. Let some things be unrecorded. Pay cash sometimes. Not to hide, just to remember the feeling of a moment that isn't logged. Write something by hand once in a while. A note, a card, a real sentence that isn't living on a server somewhere. Because trust isn't built through receipts. It's built through consistency. And consistency takes time, which is why instant culture struggles with it. If it feels like people don't trust each other the way they used to, you're not imagining it. We live in a world where proof is cheap and trust is expensive. But trust is still possible. It just has to be practiced again, like a muscle we stopped using. If this hit home, tell me one thing you miss from the old trust era. Busy signals? No read receipts? People not screenshotting everything? Drop your birth year and your memory in the comments. Subscribe to Gen X Reflections for more time capsule reflections. Next time, we'll talk about the day focus disappeared, when multitasking became a lifestyle. Until then, give someone the benefit of the doubt once today. If this video hit you right in the memories, then the next one I am recommending below will probably have you nodding along too. Click it right now to watch.